Okay, so I want you to imagine existing in a world that tracks absolutely everything about you. Your every move, your breath, your heartbeat, it's all recorded. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are unpacking a really gripping, deeply philosophical sci-fi narrative about total surveillance, absolute freedom, and what they call the architecture of absence. Let's just dive right into it. So we kick things off at Meridian Station, which is essentially the bustling heart of this total surveillance state. And we meet Inspector Kira Vess. She's a seasoned detective, but right now, she's staring down this completely bizarre, seemingly impossible paradox. There's a dead body positioned perfectly in the geometric center of the station's atrium. But in a world where literally millions of data points capture every single footstep, the security system recorded absolutely no one committing the crime. I mean, nothing, zero. Section 1, the impossible murder. To really wrap our heads around this paradox, we have to look at the victim. His name was Thorne, and he was a data coordinator whose entire life was perfectly quantified and mapped out. But Kira and her partner, Reeves, quickly realized that Thorne was killed without triggering a single sensor, camera, or predictive algorithm. And Reeves perfectly captures just how terrifying this is when he pulls up the holographic reconstruction of the 360-degree security feed. It shows the murder happening, but the main subject is just completely edited out. Except, actually, scratch that, it wasn't edited at all. The system just recorded nothing. Silent, like it was never recorded in the first place. And the data points make this totally undeniable. Just to put this into perspective, Thorne's heart rate was through the roof with a massive cortisol spike for a full 5 minutes before his death. He knew something was coming. Meanwhile, the ambient footage and thermal markers in the room operating flawlessly. The system definitely wasn't glitching. Whatever, or whoever killed him, simply left a massive void where data should naturally be. Section 2, the architecture of control. So Kira obviously needs to figure out how this void is even possible. She starts digging into Thorne's work at a company called Meridian Analytics. And she discovers Thorne had this growing obsession with the oppressive nature of disability. Because in this society, being seen literally means being controlled. But he wasn't just looking for simple anonymity. Anonymity is kind of passive. Thorne wanted something revolutionary called negative identity. This is the deliberate, painstaking process of transforming yourself from a measurable data point into a negative footprint. It's essentially escaping surveillance capitalism by becoming a literal hole in the data. And this dynamic creates two completely diverging realities. On one side, you have the visible world, tightly controlled, everyone has tracking implants, environments are totally optimized, and behavior is predicted before it even happens. But then, just out of sight is the gray district. It's built on decaying infrastructure and unmonitored blind spots where the surveillance system is failing. And it's in those literal gaps that you find absolute freedom. Section 3, embracing negative identity. Realizing she has to understand these gaps to catch the killer, Kira actually ventures into the gray district. She deliberately disables her own tracking implants and meets this underground community of invisible people led by a woman named Iris. And get this, Iris drops a massive bombshell. Thorne wasn't actually murdered. He sacrificed himself as a message to prove that invisibility is real. Iris explains that anyone can do this, but you have to follow some grueling steps. First, you map the physical blind spots. Second, carefully manage your behavior so you don't trigger any system anomalies. But the third step? That one takes a devastating psychological toll. You literally have to internalize non-existence. Think about it. In a world where your identity is completely validated by a system, you have to learn to exist without any external proof that you're even real. So Kira is faced with a massive choice. Return to the visible world, turn in her findings, and go back to her high-tech prison, or embrace the unknown. In this incredibly powerful, irreversible moment, Kira shatters her implants against the stone floor. She completely severs her connection to the system, surrendering her old identity, and officially becomes void. Section 4, the coordinated erasure. Things really start to escalate here as Void joins the community and they expand their network of invisible cells. The government completely panics. They realize their total surveillance isn't exactly total. It's a complete snowball effect from here. At midnight on day 1, the community goes on the offensive, releasing a negative identity manifesto that basically tells the public exactly how to disappear. Fast forward to month 3, the government aggressively deploys a ruthless AI called Project Coherence just to hunt down the absence of data.
Realizing their physical space is shrinking rapidly, the community decides they have to make an unprecedented move, a spectacular, coordinated data suicide.
Picture this. It's exactly 12:03 a.m. on the dot. 237 invisible individuals gather in an abandoned factory. They are completely surrounded by government security forces. And then, in perfect synchronization, they simultaneously delete their entire remaining data presence from the system. They're physically standing right there, alive and breathing, but to the system's sensors, cameras, and databases, they instantly cease to exist. The security commander tries to process them, but she literally can't. Void looks right at her and says, "We've become proof that there is a space beyond your visibility." Wow, this single act permanently shatters the illusion of total surveillance. They couldn't fight the government with weapons, but by erasing themselves in plain sight, they planted an undeniable seed of doubt across the entire society. Which brings us to Section 5, a liminal society. So what happens next? Well, fast forward years after this coordinated erasure, and society hasn't collapsed at all. Instead, it's fundamentally transformed. The system finally realizes it can no longer enforce absolute visibility. Society basically splits into three coexisting economies. You still have the visible economy, fully tracked and compliant. Then you have the invisible economy, hidden deep in the margins, operating on barter and high risk. But the real game changer is the liminal economy. Here, citizens can finally negotiate their privacy. They can move seamlessly between being seen and unseen, choosing their own level of exposure. As for Void, well, the detective, formerly known as Kira, eventually transitions into this liminal space. She writes a philosophical guide about her experiences, teaching future generations a crucial lesson. Visibility shouldn't be a mandatory condition of existing. It should be a negotiation, a choice. Before we wrap up this explainer, I want you to think about your own daily life. Think about your phone, your apps, your digital footprint. In a world that is constantly demanding your data in exchange for convenience, how much of yourself are you willing to erase to be truly free? It's a heavy question, but one we're all going to have to answer sooner or later. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today.